Hello, all you orb stealers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
Is it any orbs, or just, or specifically profit orbs?
If you've ever stolen an orb, and we'll even accept attempted orb stealers, all are welcome.
Because, I mean, like, a sphere is an orb, right?
Sure. And I'll even allow, like, other geometric solids, like,
Wow.
any platonic solids. So, dodecahedrons, icosahedrons, octahedrons, tetrahedrons, or cubes.
Yeah, I guess the Bajoran orbs aren't really, like, spherical, which is
That's true.
The image I think of with an orb. So, yeah,
There's some kind of hyperboloid of rotation or something. I don't know.
And then you've got Orb from the Venture Brothers, which was also good.
Orders regarding Bodyguard.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast in the universe or mirror universe.
Nice.
We're at least...
I like how from week to week we kind of fluctuate, where sometimes we might be the best and some weeks we are 100% the best. So
yeah, I think we're pretty high up right now. So I would definitely put us. I haven't listened to many Mirror Universe podcasts, but I definitely put us high up. I'd be confident competing with them. So anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9, Season 6, Episode 8, Resurrection, alternate title, Barile Be Back.
Wow, okay. Yeah, alright, I'll allow it.
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode, so it's safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek DS9. But be warned, Kevin Spacey is Kaiser Soze.
You really should be warned about that, because...
Yeah. And, in fact, if you see Kevin Spacey coming, just turn around. Like,
no reason not to, honestly.
Yeah. See. Resurrection originally aired November 17th, 1997. It was written by Michael Taylor and directed by LeVar Burton.
So, there's a note in here that says, although Michael Taylor is credited as writing the episode, Ira Steven Behr says that the idea was his, and the bulk of what you see on the screen was the work of him and Hans Beimler.
All right.
So, depending on how much you trust the word of Ira Steven Behr, who's saying Michael Taylor didn't do anything, or whatever, on this episode,
I'm going to reserve judgment. But I feel, Michael Taylor, we used to see him a lot, didn't we?
I feel like.
Haven't seen him in a while. And oh my goodness, Sirach Lofton is not in this episode.
Yes, Sirach Lofton does not appear in this episode. Also an interesting note, this ends a stretch of 9 episodes where he does appear. His longest stretch in the series.
What? Oh, in the whole series.
That's what it says. So I guess that's technically a slight spoiler. Right. He will not have a 9-episode stretch again. Or I guess it doesn't say he couldn't equal it. It just... So maybe he'll...
Oh, true.
He won't have 10.
He sets the record. At least he doesn't break it. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll file that under an appropriate minimum spoiler. That's okay.
I had to go to, like, because, it tells the source in the Wikipedia about where, the information came from. So I had to try to find the source for where our Stephen Behr is saying that Michael Pillar didn't, or...
Right. Is
whatever.
This a thing he drunkenly told someone at the bar one day, or...
Okay, let's see. Armin Shimmerman, Michael Dorn. I'm searching for Michael. Let's see. Why did you leave TNG? Ira Steven Behr. Basically because I found the work frustrating. I felt there wasn't enough conflict with the characters. I felt the type of stories you could have done were limited. I guess I really wanted to go, but I still remain friendly with Michael Pillar, and he was able to convince me to come back to the fold for Deep Space Nine.
Well, that's
Thanks,
Michael
Mike.
Pillar.
Yeah.
This is Michael Taylor.
Taylor, yeah. I was just searching this page for Michael. Yeah, there's only 3 mentions of Michael, and they all seem to be about let's see. One of them was about Michael Dorn, and 2 were about Michael Piller, and none are about this episode. So I don't. This source is now questionable to me. Although, funnily enough, the very first question on here, it's like a Star Trek.com question and answer thing or something that he did. The first question is Morn really going to die? And Ira Stephen Bear answers, has Morn ever really been alive?
Oh.
So there you go.
Big clue or something.
So yeah, I can't back up this claim that Ira Stephen Bear said that, but I believe it. That he said that.
Now I'm just looking at Michael Taylor because I'm like, hey, he and me have the same birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, he wrote The Visitor. Oh, and In the Pale Moonlight. Too many Michaels. Okay. So
that's the real trick. There's Michael Taylor, Michael Dorn, Michael some other people.
So who knows? I feel like every time we get a Michael Taylor episode, we're like, oh, he's the one who wrote In the Pale Moonlight.
Probably that happens every time, yeah.
An episode we have not gotten to yet and definitely will review.
We're going to skip it, actually,
Yeah.
As we've done with so many other episodes.
Right. Well, we could get tired of the series by then or something, All right, let's get started on this episode.
Yeah.
It's walk and talk time on Deep Space Nine as Kira and Dax walk to work together, discussing who Kira should bring to dinner at Worf and Dax's place.
So, apparently, the note is the opening scene was shot differently from what aired. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was cut for time, but originally the scene starts in Kira's quarters, and Kira and Jadzia are looking at Zial's paintings, and Dax is like, oh man, you still miss Zial, huh? And Kira says, I'll get over it. Death and I are old friends. Dax then suggests that Kira bring Death to dinner. They get up and leave the room, and the scene picks up in the corridor.
Interesting.
It's very flippant about a young woman's death that Kira was very fond of.
Yeah, I feel like maybe tonally it's... I mean, we'd have to see how they played it, but I did think this was interesting, kind of how they did a continuous conversation that obviously must have been filmed at several different times, but...
It's true, yeah.
It's edited together, so you don't even notice it or think about it. So, LeVar Burton being kind of clever. But, Kira isn't interested in transparent skulls or triclopses, and we won't even talk about Odo. Kira's too picky about men.
That guy turns into goo. I'm not dating him. is what I assume she's actually thinking.
Right. That guy doesn't even have a brain.
Yeah. She's very picky about the biological features of the men she dates.
All right. Well, based on the types she's dated before, I think she prefers a really traditional Bajoran man. So
yeah, it's true.
That's fine. But then a thing starts beeping. What's happening? Says Sisko. I don't know, says Chief O'Brien.
Some stuff.
Possibly something conveniently thematically relevant to the conversation we were just having.
No, but I like when they show up and on the in ops. I almost said on the bridge. It's not the bridge. In ops, it's like, I'll tell Worf that, and he's like, tell me what? And she's like, shut up, stop being nosy.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not cool.
Dax is the queen of gossip.
She so is.
But, Sisko's like, okay, well, let's hurry up and resolve the BP thing. We don't want to delay starting this incredibly engaging and well-paced episode. So a man materializes on the transporter pad, weirdly hunched over.
So there's a line in here about, the transporter starts going, and O'Brien's like, there's no ships in range. And the note in here is DS9 has just become the headquarters for the 9th Fleet, so there should be a lot of Klingon and Federation vessels nearby.
Right.
But maybe they were all off on a mission or something.
Oh, and we 100% saw a ship in the establishing shot. I maybe it warped away before we cut. Yeah. So in one of the most overly dramatic turnarounds ever, the man who beamed in reveals his face and pulls out a phaser, which they call a disruptor. So
yeah,
either way.
So this was just Kira at, I feel like, her dumbest, where someone mysterious from we don't know who, from we don't know where, has beamed in on the transporter pad, and she's like, let me walk over there completely not cautiously and get close and look so that this guy can jump up and grab me with his gun.
Yeah. And well, I feel like the obvious order is hold him in the buffer and call Odo and a security team.
Yeah. Or at the very least, everyone up here gets some weapons real quick and point them that way. Like,
right. Not the Cisco on top of his game right now.
Nope.
But I do have to give the show credit for not immediately having someone say, "Hey, look, it's Kira's dead boyfriend, Bareil."
How many people were watching when the episode aired and they're like, "Who's that guy?"
Right. I think a lot of this episode would be really confusing to people if this was like their first episode of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So Bareil takes Kira hostage, steals her Kava roll, which adds insult to injury, and demands a ship. Cisco calls Odo about the hostage situation and has him clear a path to landing pad A, where a runabout will be waiting. Bareil doesn't want to take the turbo lift because someone might cut the power and trap him inside, unnecessarily putting his hostage at risk for retaliation. So instead he weirdly drags Kira out a side door of ops. Along the way he asks if Kira is with the Alliance. "For you see, I am from the Mirror Unit." Yes, we figure that out, says the audience. Also, I guess that Terran rebellion against the Alliance isn't going super well.
Or is it? I'm unclear, honestly.
True. I mean, he claims he talked to a Terran rebel, but I don't know. Also, isn't Bajor a member of the Alliance? But whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, Bareil indicates that he's here to hide out in this universe, away from the Alliance. They climb a 57-story ladder to the top of an upper pylon, not a landing pad. Which you might think would be my nitpick of the week, but actually, after a little analysis, this makes perfect sense, as I will discuss in a second.
Okay.
Then they get to the top. Kira reveals that she knows the disruptor is broken, but she just played along because she wanted the exercise. Which sounds dumb, but there's not really another good explanation for what just happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, she can't be like, "I wanted to get you away from innocent people." But no,
Right.
he had a gun that didn't work. Like,
yeah. He was literally no threat. The only argument I could say possibly tolerate is if you said maybe she thought if he thought he had the upper hand, he might be more open and honest about.
Oh yeah, he might give up some
like
sweet info. Yeah.
But Kira beats up Bareil, and then Odo and a couple of security guys come out of the runabout, guns drawn, except for Odo, who doesn't like guns.
Yeah, I mean, she could have just waited for that.
Right.
She didn't need to confront him outside the door.
True. I think she did that for fun.
Yeah, probably.
So I guess when Cisco gave authorization 7-1 green, that was a secret code for Odo and team to go to a landing pad, fly a runabout up to the upper pylon, and wait there to ambush Bareil. And then Kira's role in plan 7-1 green or whatever was to lead Bareil up the long ladder to buy time for all that.
Interesting.
I think they must have just done drills of this, because this happens all the time, so...
I mean, it was obvious that this 7-1 green thing was a code, because when have they ever said anything like that? Like, when Cisco calls Odo with orders, he never gives, like, a weird code.
Right, yeah. It's like, you now have to give an authorization code to give any orders to Odo. Maybe that's actually part of the protocols that we see later in this episode, but... when Odo says 7-1 green, got it. I'm like, okay, that's a code for something. So yeah, I think they just must run drills on this all the time because, this exact same thing happened to Captain Cisco one time. So
yeah, it does seem to happen too much.
They're like, okay, we're not letting that happen again. Anyway, it would be a super clever plan if Kira didn't know that the gun was fake the whole time. And that's why that is my nitpick of the week.
Yeah, he could be like, authorization 7-1 green, and she's like, Captain, it's fine. His gun doesn't work.
Right, I can clearly see that thing is broken. Also, Bareil apparently went to the Joker school of unnecessarily complicated ruses that should not work. So they drag Bareil to a holding cell, and he says that a Terran rebel gave him a universe transporting device. He begs Kira to destroy it so he doesn't have to go back to his terrible universe. And he asks if he can meet himself, and Kira's like, no, that guy is dead. And he died one of the most twisted, horrible deaths you can imagine, so...
Yeah, he did.
Just don't worry about that. But Kira seems convinced by Bareil and tells Sisko she doesn't want to press charges. She has the authority to not press charges for that, I guess.
Yeah, for the invasion and attempted
theft of a runabout.
Yeah. I feel like Kira should have been like, yeah, that guy's death is a long story, but I'll just say this. If you ever want to become a Frankenstein monster, our doctor has experience.
Right. We can give you the whole thing. You can be Bareil.
Yeah.
Sisko warns her about tricking herself into thinking that this is the Bareil she knows, comparing him to the mirror universe Jennifer Sisko. He's like, I totally banged her, just like I banged the alternate versions of you and Dax.
Yep.
But whatever you do, just don't get emotionally invested. So if you want a last bang with the guy who looked like your old boyfriend, go ahead. But Kira says, don't worry, it's not a problem. So Bareil is freed, and he walks around the promenade, where everybody stares at him. Kira asks what his plans are, and he mumbles something about going to Bajor, and then quickly changes the subject by asking about his alternate self. Kira tells him he was a Vedic, and he acts like he doesn't know what that is, raising all kinds of questions about what Mirror Bajor religion is like, and why he still wears an earring, and stuff like that.
I hadn't thought about the earring thing. I just kind of assumed that they were not religious on Mirror Bajor after... the only real Bajoran we've had experience with is Kira, or the Intendant, and she doesn't seem like she would believe in anything ever. But, I guess I never thought about whether that transfers or translates to the rest of Bajoran culture.
The question I have is, and we'll maybe talk about this a little bit later, but are the prophets aware of the mirror universe? When Bareil shows up in the orb, do they understand that that's not the Bareil they know?
Interesting question. For me, I feel like it's almost like I don't know that what a person looks like would mean anything to them.
Yeah.
So they may not even think of this as Bareil, since he
True.
is so fundamentally different. They may just be like, oh, this is some other guy. But I assume that there are Mirror Universe prophets or something. Although it seems like maybe the Pa Wraiths are in charge in the Mirror Universe is what it would be. But I don't know.
Maybe.
We don't really know much about... they came through the wormhole that first time they went to the Mirror Universe. But since then, we haven't talked... the wormhole hadn't been discovered. I don't think that they talk about it much at all. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I still think... I don't think they've ever said that the wormhole has been discovered in the Mirror Universe, and they never show any interest in it. So,
yeah, maybe the Alliance isn't into exploration. So,
yeah. But yeah, they gave Bareil the vision of him and Kira living a life happily ever after on Bajor. So I'm like, were the prophets like, oh, you want more of this vision of your future with Kira? Okay.
after that first time, when we gave you that super hot vision, then
do you have the same Pa signature as the person as your counterpart from the Mirror Universe? How does this all work? Yeah. So he's like, he was a Vedic, I'd never be a religious person. Kira starts to walk into the Bajoran temple or shrine or whatever that thing is called. And as she walks over there, this forces the camera to rotate slightly and put a seizure-inducing strobe light right into the center of the shot.
Sure, as you do.
And so I was having a little bit of a hard time focusing on that scene because it was like a big giant flashing light in my face. But
yep.
Kira invites Bareil to come into the temple, but he declines, and Kira says, okay, whatever, calling his unnecessary bluff and forcing him to awkwardly come in by himself and steal someone's seat.
Yeah, it was messed up.
Then we get a rare glimpse of a Bajoran religious service, which is kind of cool.
The temple's real small when there's this many people in it, I have to say.
True. We don't see inside the temple very much.
No, we don't.
And apparently they have an orb, which I guess is on loan from Bajor or something.
Or something, yeah, who knows.
After the service, Bareil makes a show of being intrigued but conflicted about the faith, and Kira invites him to dinner with Dax and Worf. At dinner, Bareil tells a story about stealing a MacLeod from a Klingon to escape from prison, and Worf is skeptical and a little offended by the suggestion that you could so easily steal a Klingon sword. Then Dax brings out dessert, that most Klingon of dishes, flan, and offers to let Worf cut it. But Bareil says, "Allow me," and pulls out Worf's mek'leth and cuts the flan with that.
Also, I feel like somebody should point out to Worf, like, well, these are mirror universe Klingons. Like, they're also best friends with the Cardassians. So,
right.
Like, maybe you shouldn't just assume they're exactly the same.
Yeah. But Worf tries to hide how impressed he is. And also, I'm just saying, this is flan, not a turkey. There's no reason to make a big show of cutting it.
It's true. And now that mek'leth is... I mean, he wipes it off, but you're going to need more than that.
It's got flan all over. It's going to be all sticky.
Behind Bareil in this scene, you can see the trophy that Worf won at the Batleth competition in the Parallels episode of The Next Generation.
Ooh, nice little piece of detail.
Yeah.
Anyway, afterwards, after dinner, Kira and Bareil chat on the way home, and Bareil makes a carefully timed allusion to a tragic lost love when they get to Kira's door. And so Kira falls for the most classic trick of all time and invites him in. You go to the bar, you act a little sad. It's like, oh, the love of my life just died. Bam. Anyway. Inside, Bareil spins a yarn about trying to steal a woman's purse, only to have her turn around and steal his heart. 5 years later, she caught a stray disruptor bolt in a bar fight. Kira eats it all up.
I mean, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, a similar thing happened to a man I love. Except instead of a bar fight, we replaced part of his brain with a computer, and he became an unholy abomination that we had to let die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same story, really.
Right?
When you get down to it.
It probably would have been too suspicious if his story was too similar to that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. It's like, wait, my girlfriend got turned into a horrible abomination of science also.
It's like she became a horrifying husk of the person she used to be, and for the sake of human decency, we had to end her existence.
Yeah.
But Kira is totally enchanted with the story, and they kiss and then go to bed. The next morning, Bareil sits up in bed, munching on a bowl of alvas. His nipples are distractingly prominent in the shot, while Kira talks to him about the other Bareil. So, excellent choice there, LeVar Burton.
Hey, you know what? You noticed, so it got the reaction that he may have been looking for all we know.
Everything is there for a purpose. I mean, he's like, I really want to plant this kind of like subconscious thinking about nipples when we're in this scene. Bashir heads up to Ops on a flimsy pretense to hear the latest gossip about Kira, and also get Alexander Siddig into the episode.
Yeah, get him in there once. It's okay.
Yeah. Kira reveals that her evening went, quote, well. And Dax turns to Worf and says, I told you. And Worf says, yeah, even I could tell they were going to bang.
So there is a note in here that the Visitor didn't like this episode because she felt Kira acts out of character. For one thing, she felt that Kira was well over the death of Bareil. And for another, she felt like Kira would never get so involved with a man she'd only just met. Which, I feel like, I mean, even if you're over someone, when like your dead ex-boyfriend shows up, like it's going to cause some emotions. So I don't know that I agree with the first part, but I kind of do agree with the second part where I'm like, she really just jumps into bed with this guy after like one sort of date, and it's a little much.
Who is she, Dax?
Yeah, see, if it had been Dax, then 5 minutes after meeting the guy, she could have been like, I will give up my life for you. But Kira, not really.
Let me run away to the mirror universe with you. We'll go on adventures. I mean, do you ever get over someone to that degree where if a person showed up that looked exactly like them, that wouldn't affect you?
Right, yeah, exactly. Also, so I went to Memory Beta to look up the Bajorans, like if there's more information from novels or whatever about the Mirror Bajor, and if they had some sort of, if they were strongly religious. And so what I've discovered here is that at some point, the Bajorans were conquered by the Terran Empire, and during the occupation in the Mirror Universe, the Terrans killed off all of their priests and destroyed all of the icons, such as the orbs of the prophets. Oh. So they had that at some point, but I guess it went away after they didn't have any more religious figures or icons.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. They did mention that, I think, in the very first Mirror Universe episode, that Bajor had been subjected by the Terran Empire and got free by joining with the Klingons and Cardassians.
It makes sense.
So, and Worf also says there's no activity along the Dominion border right now, so don't worry about that whole situation. We can do whatever we're doing this episode.
Yeah, the war is paused for us to do other things because we spent the whole first third of the season on that.
You're right, yeah. We're taking a time out to do these kind of smaller character stories. They're kind of doing the same thing over on their side, so Wei-Yun,
I want to see those.
His ex-girlfriend or something. I don't know.
If Wei-Yun has an ex-girlfriend, that is a story that I would have wanted to see.
Is it a situation like on Trill where you're not allowed to get together with someone who your previous clone was involved with or something?
Yeah, well, I don't know that he has any memories of the other clones, so you wouldn't even necessarily know.
Yeah, that's always the thing I've been fuzzy on, is if you actually have memories of the other clone or not. But
I guess maybe you could have some. You almost certainly couldn't have all of them since they died at some point.
Right. Maybe this will be touched on more in future episodes, but... So Kira takes Bareil to the temple to have an orb experience. He's nervous about meeting the prophets, but after a quick paw check, he stares into the orb and the orb stares into him. Also, we see that the orb is behind a protective force field that we, the audience, immediately sense would not be there if it wasn't going to be relevant to the plot later.
Honestly, it didn't even occur to me.
I don't know.
It's the future. They put shit behind force fields,
Maybe I'm just being too hyper aware. I don't know.
You're too jaded.
Right. Yeah, maybe LeVar Burton was like, wouldn't we put this very valuable artifact between a force field? I demand that we build a force field right here for this.
Legit force field must be made.
Afterwards, Bareil seems to be a changed man. He wants to tell Kira what he saw, but apparently you're not supposed to do that. Or maybe she's just too uncomfortable to hear about it.
Yeah, I was like, have we heard before that you're not supposed to talk about it? I don't remember that, but it's possible.
Yeah. I feel like people talk about their orb visions all the time, but...
I feel like most of the time they actually avoid talking about it. And not in the, I shouldn't talk about it. But it's for instance, what Kira sees in the orb that one time, and she asks, Bareil's so what happened? And Kira's like, oh yeah, I don't want to talk about the weird sexy stuff I just saw between us.
Yeah. But he even said, because in my vision, I saw you, so...
That's true, yeah.
And I think Kai Wynn has said, I looked into an orb and the prophets told me this, so... Maybe it's different if, the prophets give you instructions or something, but...
Well, yeah, you gotta tell people I'm doing this because the prophets told me to.
Right. Again, if this was any real-world religion, I would be highly suspicious of that. I went into the holies. I went into the Holy of Holies, and I talked to God, and He told me to do this. So,
I feel like in reality, especially given how weird these visions often are, it would be standard practice for you to go to a Vedek and have a discussion with them, and they would try to help you understand what you just saw, because. True. Especially for someone like Bareil, who barely knows anything about religion or the prophets, it seems kind of rude to chuck him in the deep end and be like, I don't know, figure it out. Don't talk to me about it. I'm not going to help you.
Yeah, he should have had some counseling with that Vedic, ahead of time, and then
tell him what to expect or something, and explain, this stuff may happen. That's perfectly normal. You don't have to feel like it's weird that you'll be hungry or tired or whatever after.
Right. I mean, you may see things that disturb you, things that You may see yourself naked with people. I mean, who knows? Who knows what you'll see? But Bareil does reveal that the other Bareil was there, and that he was him and him was he. So, again, just makes me wonder how much the prophets are aware of, if they did that on purpose, or... but Bareil heads back to his quarters alone, but someone is there waiting for him. It's Kira. Sexy mirror Kira, who is either back to having her job of intendant, or that uniform and tiara have just always been a fashion choice, unrelated to that job.
Yeah, could be. Or maybe it was like the uniform for the job, and she just really liked it. So
she's like, you can never take this away from me. Anyway, she and Bareil start making out and talking about how their secret, sinister plan is right on track.
So you don't have to beam into the transporter pad in Ops, because presumably she didn't. So
yeah,
it's weird.
I mean, I guess it's part of his whole huge manipulation of Kira or something. I don't know. So evil Kira interprets Bareil's tiredness as meaning that he has feelings for regular Kira. It's totally okay, she says. I tried to bang her too.
She's not wrong.
That's true. Then Bareil says she's wonderful, and evil Kira gets jealous and tries to punch him. And then she says that good Kira is too good for Bareil.
I mean, also not wrong, I don't think.
Kira, evil Kira is using the classic manipulation technique of "you're not good enough."
I kind of don't think he is. Let's be honest here.
But yeah, apparently the plan is to steal the orb, which they will take to alternate Bajor and unite Bajor against the Alliance, which was a prominent member of the Alliance last we heard. So I don't know.
So okay. So is the orb supposed to work to contact the prophets in the mirror universe? Or do we not need to do that? Because A, we don't know that it would. B, if you start letting people have orb experiences in the mirror universe, the prophets may say stuff to them that you don't want them hearing because it wouldn't necessarily jive with what you're saying. So I'm unclear on how the orb is supposed to help. Is it just, look, we have a magic floating thing in a box, worship us? Or the plan is apparently he becomes like Kai, essentially, and takes the reins and leads Bajor. But I'm just like, well, how does one equal the other? How do you go from orb to ruler of the planet?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some question mark prophet stuff going on here.
Prophet.
No pun intended. Okay. But I mean, maybe it's sort of Kalis logic, where just possessing the artifact will make you the ruler of Bajor or something. I don't know. Which makes me wonder, did Michael Taylor write that episode?
Oh, I don't know. You're the one who looked up. Hold on. Let me go.
I already closed that window.
Michael Taylor, are you into mysterious objects and mysterious things?
Is this just a weird quirk of Michael Taylor?
That would
writing?
Be funny. The Sword of not Kagan. Apparently there's a book called The Sword of Kagan, a Theonite war story. It's The Sword of Kalis, Season 4, Episode 8. There we go. Dang it. I thought I was selecting Sword of Kalis, and it selected Sword of Kagan.
Oh no. Is that related to Star Trek?
No. It sounds like a fantasy novel of some sort. Okay, here we go. Sword of Kalis, written by teleplay Hans Beimler, story by Richard Dennis. But apparently Hans Beimler wrote a bunch of this episode, according to Ira Stephen Barris. So.
Oh, okay. So that's the secret connection, Hans Beimler.
Yeah.
That's just the way Hans Beimler thinks artifacts work or something.
Apparently.
So later, Bareil gets drunk at Quark's while a bunch of people stare at him. Quark strikes up a conversation and floats the idea of having Bareil dress up like the dead Bareil and charging money to meet him. Bareil's not into it, though, and he tells Quark off. He admits that he's more like Quark than the other Bareil, but right now he doesn't like Quark or himself.
Honestly, I feel like you should consider Quark's proposal, because Kira wouldn't be a fan of it, obviously, but this plan means you could make a lot of money and not have to go back to the crappy mirror universe. So,
yeah. If it,
maybe.
I kind of think this is a terrible business idea, but
I don't know.
I mean, is it just going to be like 24/7 Comic-Con where you're just in line to talk to a person for 5 minutes or 5 seconds? and get a selfie or whatever.
BrileCon, you say? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe pilgrims would be coming from all over to meet him all the time. I don't know. But Bareil goes and stares intensely at the shrine, which he apparently does conspicuously for several hours. Quark goes down to the cargo bay to pick up a shipment and runs into Kira and tells her, "Hey, I like that new Bareil guy. Also, he's totally going to steal that orb."
He's like, 100% he's going to do this thing.
Right. I am calling that shot right now. Bareil goes home and finds Alt Kira wearing regular Kira's clothes, but we can tell it's evil Kira because she's still holding her tiara. Very clever
also,
little detail.
Intendant Kira just like has a way of standing and moving that is different from normal Kira.
Yeah, I mean, she's really good at like doing that performance, but
yeah,
I mean, on a quick, just like almost subconscious like visual cue, you don't even have to wait for her to stop talking to understand what's going on.
Yeah. The note in here is, Kira points out to Quark that he has had an orb experience. This is referring to the episode Profit Motive.
I remember it well.
Yep.
I don't think Quark was really changed by that experience. He just went in and like negotiated with the prophets.
Yeah.
Like they were anybody else, and then he came back.
He did not seem greatly affected by it, for sure.
Yeah. Everybody's different, I guess. But the heist is on. Bareil gets to work taking on the force field around the orb, while Alt Kira goes to get the transporter pad ready for their escape. But for some reason, the transporter is in a guarded room, and the guard wants Kira's access code. "Why do you need that?" says evil Kira as regular Kira. "Well, because of the war with the Dominion." "The what?" "The, major thing that's going on, our war with a race of shapeshifters who can flawlessly impersonate anybody."
Yeah. He falls for her crap so fast. I'm like,
right.
You should be alert. Like, when your superior officer, the second in command of the station, is like, "Oh, I don't remember my passcode. Why don't you give me a massage, big boy?" Right. It's like, this should be sounding alarm bells. You shouldn't be like, "Yeah, totally, I'll give you that massage." Like, what is wrong with you? Are the worst guard.
Yeah, I was just imagining like Odo later, like with all of his security staff gathered around, and they're like all reviewing the footage together. And then he pauses. He's like, "Okay, who can tell me the mistake he made?" And then someone's like, "He gave her a back massage?" He's like, "Correct, he gave her a back massage."
Even before that, it's like, he's like, "That was a mistake, yes, but before that, when she didn't know her password," right. And he was just like, the passwords that we have to have. Like, this is when you should have immediately cut. It's like, let's talk to Odo really quick and make sure that everything's okay. Maybe you just don't have the latest password, Major. Totally understandable. Let's get him down here and we'll talk about it. Like, just when you were at war with a race of shapeshifters and somebody starts acting way out of character, it shouldn't be hard to connect the dots. I mean, those dots would be connected incorrectly in this case, but still.
Yeah, Odo just needs to... He's like, we need to have this learning opportunity right now. I feel like maybe we haven't communicated why we do these security protocols, but it's okay. We'll retrain. And yeah, I think Kira's just thinking, "Oh man, this is an unfortunate coincidence."
He's gonna get called down in front of Captain Sisko, and Sisko's like, "Let me get this straight. Your deputy started giving the person a back massage who was breaking into Odo. What is going on with your force here?"
Right. It's like, we can call down to Bajor if you don't have the quality of people you need to work with. We can address that. This is we're kind of in a high, an important situation right now. This is the headquarters of the 9th Fleet.
Yeah.
Or the 7th Fleet, or whatever fleet is there now. And,
I think it's the 9th Fleet.
Yeah.
It's like, do we need a Starfleet security officer back in here? And then Odo's like, "You mean like Michael Eddington?" And Sisko's like, "Okay, touche."
Yeah. So, all right. You got me there. Or whatever that guy's face is that got fired after he after he failed to. What did that guy even do? He the entire crew got trapped in the Wadi game, and he didn't notice.
Yeah, that was George Primin, right?
Oh yeah, that's right, Lieutenant Primin.
Yeah, I'd forgotten him until you started talking about that. I was like, we haven't had good luck with Starfleet security.
I think Starfleet security is just one of those assignments where they send the problem people, or on Deep Space Nine.
On Deep Space Nine, yeah, they're like, look, Deep Space Nine has a really good Bajoran security officer. So the Starfleet guy, just send one of the guys who can't do his job, because he won't have much to do anyway.
Yeah, it's like they have a goo man guarding them. I don't know what else we're gonna do.
Oh, freaking George Primmett. No one on the senior staff shows up or whatever for their shift, and he's like, they were out late partying last night.
They got drunk. I know what happened. I will not investigate this. I wonder whatever happened to good old George Primmett.
This is a great question. I'm going to have to look up to see if there's information about him. Oh man,
he died in that battle.
His Mirror Universe counterpart is mentioned in one of the novels, or novellas.
He's super competent.
Yeah, the most competent of the Terran Rebellion guys.
Right, he's like a general.
In one alternate timeline, Primmett was chief of security on Starbase 10 in the 2370s.
Huh. Chief of security, there you go.
Yeah, good for you, I guess.
So, anyway, Bareil takes down the force field, but real Kira shows up with a phaser and says, "What's that old saying? Once a thief?" And is that a saying? Maybe on Bajor.
Sure.
But Kira is good enough to give Quark proper credit for seeing through Bareil.
It's true. Good job, Kira. I know you don't like him. It takes a big woman to do that.
That was a real mark of maturity. I like that. But then evil Kira shows up with her own phaser and disarms good Kira. But then evil Kira starts doing a bunch of excessive taunting about what a scumbag Bareil is and what a fool Kira is for trusting him. So eventually Bareil just gets fed up and shoots evil Kira.
Yeah, I mean, as you would. She really does go overboard on it. It reminds me of The Emperor's New Groove, if you recall that movie, where towards the end, Yzma just starts going off on Kronk about how useless he is and he can't do anything, and I've always hated your spinach puffs, and he's finally just like, you know what, screw this.
I could go for a spinach puff.
Not me.
I haven't seen that movie probably in 20 years, but
yeah,
it's a good, memorable movie.
I hadn't seen it in a long time. When our twins were about 2, they got very much into it, and I had to listen to it a million times in the car.
Oh, nice.
So it has stuck in there now.
Nice.
Okay, pause for a second, because there's one other mention of George Primmett that comes up in a novel, apparently, as I was looking through this. And this is... So the novel is called The Big Game.
Okay.
And Starfleet has posted a communique for human fugitive capital L apostrophe STHWAN. Lithwan.
And he's human.
Yeah. Primmett briefs Odo about the subject. Despite the fact that the communique was very vague, the station's crew become concerned that Lithwan might be on the station when a Romulan female who arrived to play in the first annual Deep Space Nine poker tournament was murdered while in a practice poker session.
That sounds like an interesting book.
And then it turns out that Lithwan is there, and they capture him, and Odo has Primmett guard the brig. But I was just like, really? We're going to have a novel where it's like, we're going to have the first annual Deep Space Nine poker tournament. That seems so weird. That
sounds like someone's novel idea that they could only sell by turning it into a Deep Space Nine novel.
Oh my gosh, hold on. This is... Okay, I had to click that because I was curious about what information there was on the first annual Deep Space Nine poker tournament. So the participants list is interesting. Odo ends up playing in the tournament. That was part of his thing to catch Lithwan. Apparently, Commander William T. Riker was invited to play, but an emergency prevented him.
So they couldn't even get Jonathan Frakes for the book.
Yeah, I guess not. There's a name I don't recognize. Grand Nagus Zek was there, so I guess he plays poker. We got Dr. Julian Bashir was there. Lursa and Bajor played in the poker game. Elam Garrick. So I guess this is before Star Trek Generations.
Generations, yeah.
They die in that.
Presumably.
Garrick is there, and Berlingoff Rasmussen plays in the tournament.
What?
Yeah. So
shouldn't he be in jail or something? Isn't he
So,
the guy who came back or who stole a time machine from a time traveler from the future and then came to his future
yes.
yeah.
And so apparently, now I had to go to his article on Memory Beta. It says he spent some time in custody, but was deemed rehabilitated by 2369. That year, he participated in a high-stakes poker tournament at Quark's. After that, in his entry, it says he goes on to become involved in a plot to steal the NX-class Intrepid, which he intended to use to return to his own time. So I guess he's still trying to get back there.
Huh. I mean, I guess you would, right?
He had the foresight to hide the blueprints for the time travel pod prior to his journey and was able to retrieve them, thus rebuilding the pod. He traveled to the 20th century to the home of his ancestor J.R. Rasmussen. Together they traveled back to 1964, where they relayed information about the future to a television writer named Gene Roddenberry. Rasmussen died sometime before 1999 in an auto accident while driving to an appointment with the producers at Paramount Pictures. And this is from a short story called Research.
This is a canon Memory Beta story.
I mean, nothing in Memory Beta is exactly canon, but
well, I mean, yeah, it's like a lower tier of canon.
So right? it's from an anthology of short stories called Strange New Worlds 2. So yeah,
it's like an official thing, though.
Yes, it is an official published thing by Pocket Books. So
Barlingoff Rasmussen did the, hey, this is your cousin Marvin Berry to Gene Roddenberry. Okay.
Oh my gosh, hold on, and it turns out that the writer of this short story in the anthology was J.R. Rasmussen. So either that's a pen name, or this person just was like, man, my name is so similar to that guy's name, I got to use this for this story.
That's got to be like the a verisimilitude thing, like the Sherlock Holmes stories are written by Watson or something.
Maybe.
Anyway, after Bareil shoots evil Kira, but luckily it was just a stun, so we might see her again. He reveals to good Kira that in his orb experience he had a vision of himself and Kira together on Bajor, but he knows it's not meant to be. He belongs in the mirror universe with evil Kira.
For some reason.
Yeah, and then Kira just says, well, then you should go. So Bareil takes out the transporter thingy and beams himself and evil Kira back to the mirror universe, presumably.
Or somewhere. Just out of here.
Then Kira just stares like, okay, well, that was a thing. The end.
Yep. Okay, hold on. Some random notes.
Uh-huh.
This episode features a reversal of the standard Mirror Universe episode format, insofar as the story is someone from that universe visiting ours. Also differs from the traditional Mirror Universe format, at least for a Deep Space Nine Mirror Universe episode, because no one is killed in this episode. This is the only Mirror Universe-related episode with no scenes in the Mirror Universe.
Wow.
Also, the only Mirror Universe episode not to feature Miles Smiley O'Brien, Elam Garrick, and Terran Marauder number 1.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is he okay?
Who knows, really.
Terran Marauder number 1.
There's a cut line from the script that would have Worf reveal that he served aboard the starship USS Hawk as an ensign, and that it was hit by an unknown anomaly on his second day out of port. So it's a shame that we lost that ripping story.
How did that even fit into the episode?
I don't know. Maybe when we go to dinner, like he's telling that story before Bareil tells his much more interesting story. I don't know.
Right. Let me tell you about this anomaly. I mean, I didn't see it, but the science officer said it was really weird.
And then it stole my MacLeod, and Bareil's like, oh, that reminds me of a story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then... okay, I'm sorry. Before going back to that, I had to go into the J.R. Rasmussen article to find out, is this really a... So it says, Jeannie Rasmussen is a writer and winner of the Strange New Worlds contest. She lives in Reno, Nevada. In fiction, she was the ancestor of the time-traveling con man, Barlingoff Rasmussen, the two, all that other stuff. Later, the two offered their research services to the producers of Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. JR continued even after Barlingoff was killed, but it's the last paragraph here that really gets me. JR resigned her position and forswore time travel in 1999 after receiving a vision from a Bajoran orb of herself and Wesley Crusher sharing an encounter on Risa.
What?
So I don't.
Is this all in the story?
The source for that was still that same short story. So I was
So she just wrote a self-insert fan fiction story with a ludicrous plot, and it got published in this anthology.
I guess. I love that it's like, I have to give all of this up because I had a creepy vision of me and Wesley Crusher on Risa, and I can't let that happen.
I would ask how she got the orb, but
I don't really want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that was a rabbit hole, and I went all the way down it.
See if I can find the story and put a link to it or something.
The last note in here, Ira Stephen Bear has commented on this episode. I think part of the disappointment some fans felt with the episode is due to its placement in the season. After the six-parter and the wedding, an episode like Insurrection seemed almost like or Resurrection, not Insurrection, seemed almost like an afterthought. But any episode with Nana Visitor can't be all bad. I think she did a lovely job, and though I don't think it's the best episode we've done, I believe we've done worse. He also stated, I knew we were going to get hammered for whatever show came up after the war arc and the wedding episode. People were going to say, is that what you were going to do next? It's the feeling of letdown after you've done something big. It was bad timing, and it probably shouldn't have been a relationship show, but I felt like we needed one for Kira. And actually, I think it was one of our better romantic shows.
We don't have enough Kira relationship episodes.
We just got off the Kira drama with Odo. Like, do we really... Whatever.
Whatever you need to tell yourself, Ira Stephen Bear.
There's all sorts of reasons no one liked it. None of them are my fault, though.
I guess if he's gonna claim that he secretly wrote the episode, then he also now has to defend it. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so you ready to get into reviews?
Yeah. What did you think of Resurrection?
Well, I have a very brief review. I wrote my review down. So
okay.
There's a kernel of an interesting idea in this episode, in a man who comes from a different universe and gets inspired by the figurative and possibly also literal ghost of his alternate self to become a better person.
Mm.
But the execution is very uneven and boring. And despite its potential, I don't think it really takes it anywhere deeper or more interesting than what they already did with Smiley O'Brien. At best, I could say this episode functions as like a redo of the way they got rid of Bareil, kind of like Yesterday's Enterprise with Tasha Yar.
Mm.
But overall, see, I think maybe I judged You Are Cordially Invited too harshly. I think I was having that effect Ira Stephen Bear was talking about, where it was going so fast, and then it was almost like we hit a brick wall of excitement. So maybe that's why I was bored with this, but comparing that with that's why I was so bored with that, but comparing that with this is clearly worse in my opinion. So, but I don't know, it's not an ensign, but I feel like it's almost too harsh to go all the way down to a lieutenant junior grade. I think I'm still going to give it a lieutenant, but it's a low lieutenant.
Okay.
So, what do you think?
Fair. Okay, the thing for me is I'm not really comparing it to earlier in this season, because for me it's more of, I don't like Mirror Universe episodes. I've said this before. Right. It's not a thing that I like. I don't just the conceit of doing an episode about that. Partially because I just don't like the idea. Partially because it's like they have this thing where they don't matter. Like they have very little effect on the rest of the series. So it feels pointless to me.
Right.
I will say that this one being set all in our universe makes me dislike it less than most Mirror Universe episodes.
Sure.
Like, this one feels like this is stuff that maybe sort of matters because it's events happening with our characters in our normal universe. So it had potential there. The thing is, I kind of agree, and I said it before with Not Visitor, that it's like Kira wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't feel like Kira. And then we get to the end, and like you pointed out, like, he's gone, and she's like, okay then, whatever.
Right.
Which, like, it's like Whiplash, that she falls in love with this guy so quickly because he's Bareil, but then instantly doesn't really give a crap. So, it's weird in that way to me. There's no good. Is there a B story in this at all? Actually,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, there's no thing to take away from this main story, which the entire premise upon which it's built is that Kira's falling for this guy, which doesn't feel like a realistic Kira story to me. So, like, it's all of these things are conspiring against it, that it has a long way to climb to be any good at all. Despite all of that, I think there's some good stuff about it. The actor who plays Bareil, I think he did a good job.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think that this is an interesting concept to do. That, this guy who's dead, who was really good, his alternate version comes and he's really bad and he gets inspired. Kind of like you said, there's a kernel of a good story there. And I think that they do a so-so job at it. I like the idea of the Intendant in our universe also. And despite the ridiculousness of that scene, I love that she's just like, she has her one tool in her toolbox of like using her sexuality to get to guys, and it works every time almost. And so it was funny to see her pulling that off as Kira in our universe, and it still works.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh man, everyone is secretly hot for Kira. Good to know. So there's some good stuff about the episode. There's some fun stuff about the episode. The stuff with Bareil and Quark, that may have been some of the best Bareil stuff in the episode, because it's like he's getting that moment of looking in a mirror almost with Quark there, who is very much like him. And I thought that was well done, and I thought that it was a good idea to mirror him with Quark and give Quark something to do in the episode, and provide that for him, because there's no other way for him to get that, really. There's no other characters like that we could look at. So there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff. It honestly is probably toward the top of my list of mirror universe episodes. I hate it less than the other ones, but that's not saying that much. So this one is right around the line for me. And I don't remember where I've rated the other Mirror Universe episodes. If I wanted to take the time to look, I might just that might influence me. Like, what did I rate that one? How do I feel like this one compares? But I'm not going to do that. So right. I'm going to put this. The real question is, does it go above the line or below the line? I think it's going to end up below the line, but just barely for me. So I'm also at that point a lieutenant, but like a high lieutenant.
Okay. Yeah. Just that emotional reaction at the end, and just compare it to when Goodwin from Lost disappeared on that planet, and Dax, who met her like 5 hours earlier, was like gutted and crying.
Yep.
But Kira's just like, what happened? And I guess I'm just over my usual Mirror Universe complaints. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. Mainly that one. I do like the Mirror Universe a little bit more, but I usually have to get over the fact that it's like, how could these people exist in this universe? We've talked about all this before. But...
Yeah. Well, and it's less in your face when we're not in their universe.
True.
So that probably helps a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we can talk about the title, which is Resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
My main note about the title is I'm a little surprised this title hasn't been used before.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I want to say it would be memorable, except I don't think it is. I feel like that there are other episodes I might think could be called Resurrection. And it's not a resurrection. Like, that's not what's happening. So, and it's weird because it's a Mirror Universe episode without the mirror pun of any kind in the title.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, even that throws me off. If I was trying to, like, what's that one with Mirror Bareil coming to our world? I would be looking for a mirror title, and there wouldn't be one. So, I don't know that I feel it's appropriate, clever, or memorable. It's just blah.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. I didn't even think about that. Like, they just totally dropped their whole gimmick.
Yeah.
If anything, it's like less than memorable because of that. It's like misleading and confusing. I don't know. So,
I mean, you could have gone like mirror image or like
Ooh.
something that would be evocative of what's happening with Burial, and but you didn't. So whatever.
I think there's something there. There's got to be a mirror pun there. Like,
I'm absolutely sure there is. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Nope.
All right. So, yeah, that's our discussion of Resurrection. Thanks for listening. If you liked that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of life support. You know.
Sure, why not?
I don't necessarily recommend watching that episode first, but
just listen to the episode. Yeah, it's fine.
But you can find that, all past episodes or future episodes, if you're in the future, if you're wherever you're listening to this. And if you want to leave us a comment, you can do that on YouTube if you want us to actually see it.
Find our Mirror Universe podcast if you're in the Mirror Universe.
Oh yeah, ours is awesome, so I assume that one sucks. So
yeah,
and it's evil, but
obviously,
yeah. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you next week. But remember, you're not ready for paradise yet.